quite spectacular. Have a look behind you. Look behind you. Oh, like the Pied Piper. Yeah.
It's hard when you're a model.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. Are you ready to go, or are you?
I
good?
guess
rolling.
whenever we
It's
roll,
rolling.
you
We
can-
always do this, don't we?
You can always start the video when you
We always
want it,
have to
right?
have the gap.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to go rewind a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'm just sort of visually going back to how we started in the sand ring
Okay.
with the horses, and of course, Miss Liberty was the first one that came up. So, your session, we talked about what a different place you're in from when you were last here. And do you remember how you described, like, you're super happy with your job? And tell me a little bit, do you remember our sort of umbrella for today?
How about you phrase it so I can
So you can
bring
get
myself back here.
to that place. I was asking you about how you were doing, so just start there. So how are things?
Yeah, great. Like, I'm loving my job.
Awesome.
That is the best change that I've made, to be outside, and I love who I work with, and it's great being with the plants, and it just feels really good to have made that
Yeah.
shift.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's hard work, and but it feels really great. It feels great in the body, and I'm learning, and
Cool.
yeah.
That's very
I look
cool.
forward to going to work, and I feel happy when I come home. So that's nice. Tired
That's
and happy.
amazing. That's amazing. That's so cool. So cool. And then your course, you're doing your course, which is also amazing, right?
Yeah, so very, very beautiful learning there, and just learning how intuition is in the body, and you need to be in your body to be more intuitive. So that's really cool. And when you think of life as well, just when you're in that stress response, you can't access the intuition the way you can when you're more settled and grounded.
Right.
So just some of the things that I've talked about with you, like the connecting to the earth, has
Yeah.
been really powerful for me, because that isn't something I've done before. I've had a little bit of an awareness, but just a real conscious connection deep into the earth has been really awesome. And
Yeah, I love
just
that.
learning to access more cues for your body, and how does your body say yes, and how does it say no, and that this can be dynamic. You don't want to get stuck in, well, this is what my body always does, because it changes,
Right.
so it'll just be so interesting today to see what we explore. And
Yeah, what they have to say, because you've changed your job, because here last time you were in that sort of transition place, nothing had been firmed up.
right.
And you've leapt into the new job, and it sounds like my words that it's really nourishing you. And
Yes.
yeah. And you've also started your course, which is a 6-month
6-month course.
6-month course about strengthening intuition.
Intuitive
and
coaching.
Intuitive coaching. Right. So in order to be able to coach people. Yeah, that was the piece that I thought was so exciting.
One thing that's coming up is maybe trusting the process, because adding that piece to my life, when you're coaching, there's more talking involved.
Right,
And when we
yes.
contrast with the biodynamic craniosacral therapy, I feel really comfortable trusting the process, because
Right.
it's the client's body leading the session.
Right.
And there's not a lot of conversation.
Right. Right.
I mean, we
right.
do use some verbal cues and some embodiment guidance.
Right.
That feels great.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, so compared to when I was here the last time doing a session with the horses, my body feels completely different.
Wow.
Feels more whole. The resources are there, like throughout the whole time. Today, I felt wholeness
Right.
and just a softness in the body, just no real big triggers or because I know I've felt anxiety. I know what that feels like. And it feels, I can usually feel it up in the throat and in the heart area. And yeah, my system felt so good today. Very comfortable.
That's,
And
yeah.
pretty much throughout.
That isn't that a lovely, like during the session, we were checking in on that, but it's lovely now to sort of recall that really that's kind of an overlay
Yeah.
of the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
That
Not a lot of ups and downs, roller coaster,
yeah,
how life can be. But
Yeah.
today, the session, I felt really, really good throughout. Like the body just felt in wholeness,
yeah, yeah,
which is actually a
That's-
really nice place to be,
yeah,
to function in life from,
Mm-hmm.
if at all possible,
right.
or as much as possible.
As much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. How does your body feel? Like if you do a quick scan of your body, how's it feeling?
It actually feels quite comfortable. I
Yeah.
mean, I think of how I felt around the horses just the first time I walked with you on the property, and we were just walking, not
Yeah.
doing any kind of a session. And it's quite stunning that here I'm standing with her, and yeah, this feels good.
That's because I hadn't even thought of that because I was in the process. Because it was actually quite an active session this time, wasn't it? There was a lot of different movements and different engagements, and nothing really lasted for any huge period of time. It was like they were coming in, going out, and another one, and then a
Yeah.
different move. And
And we didn't move very far.
no, we didn't. No,
They kept coming back to us.
we kept saying that, what if we walk over here? And then it didn't happen because that's what they did. Yeah, that's actually a really lovely sort of analogy of the whole thing, isn't it? That life goes on, and that perhaps that is validation of, I want to trust my body more and have my body be in the process. And it's like, well, here it is. You're doing
Yeah.
it. It's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need to, like, you're already doing it. I think maybe that's where what I'm hearing is that's validation, right?
Yeah.
At some level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this felt really, really markedly different. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, there were different engagements. There was Liberty's initial engagement, which was quite inquiring, right? She was actually checking you out physically, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was right up against me. I
Yeah.
could feel her breath.
Yeah. Yeah. And your system didn't seem to be at all concerned by
No,
that.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, at ease, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was that lovely validation, which I think that maybe they'll just keep hammering at you until you get it, that your body knows where to position itself, right? Because that lovely piece too of the edge, where you both, like, there was a physical contact time, and then there was a time where you were both like apart but still really connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's an edge to the connection or the energy, and there's
Yeah.
there's a sweet spot.
That's
that
great.
that you can find.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and that feels good. Feels
Yeah.
good to do life in that place.
Yeah, I like the phrase sweet spot, because it's like, it'll be interesting to me for you to do some coaching and how that sweet spot plays out with people, because that was something that I was sort of exploring with you, knowing that, that's something that that you're going towards is that we're not in physical contact with people very often when we're doing these, you know, we're probably all going to have to go and do a lot more online stuff. And it's like, where's the sweet spot there, right?
Yeah.
Because it's still there, even though we're in a screen. You and I have experienced that doing sessions together, is that, wow, this is extraordinary. Like, you're giving me suggestion and I can feel it, even though we're an hour's drive away from each other.
And then take that another step further, then there will be clients I have in a call like that who I've never even met face to face. Right? And to think, finding that sweet spot with someone who's from another country.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
Or,
totally.
you know, maybe 3 hours away from where I live anywhere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So the technology enables you to do that, but to do a session in that way and find that sweet spot and have something really valuable to offer.
Right, right, for both of you. So that I think the horse is very, and I think you sort of, again, I think I'm just going back to that visual of liberty, and when there was a physical separateness, I'll ask you, did it feel any less connected than when she was nosing you, or was there a difference, or was it?
I feel like it remained the same. It wasn't like there was this big change, whether we were, you know, together, or even when she, you know, moved away a little bit. Yeah, it was constant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're in each other's space. Yeah, and then of course we had to have Charlie's different type of engagement.
I loved how you asked me who I might like to engage with, and at the time, I don't remember where Liberty was, but the other three were outside of the ring.
She was
With
she
the
was
trees.
she was doing a walkabout with Ken. She was like,
That's right. That's and
got to
then
see that.
I said Charlie, and moments later, the three of them start walking in. I think he was leading. Walked right up to me as if I had called him in. How does that happen?
yeah.
Yeah, you know, really.
It is the extraordinariness of it, isn't it? And I guess maybe again that is more validation of, even though they were, you know, out here where we're now sitting, it's still all connected. It's just another layer. I watched them at various times, and they were on what I call that connected layer, which is the next layer out, right? And they were, well, you even said it. They were equidistant apart. They had their backs to us, and yet they were on they were on one of those distinct lines that you were finding.
Yeah.
So the fact that your intention went there, and you specified one that you were interested in, and you know, I think perhaps with our mental desires for instant gratification, we sometimes don't wait for those however many 3 or 4 seconds for that thing to actually happen, right? Because it didn't take long, did it?
No, it was pretty instant in terms of our session.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And he butted right into my space. So it
Which
challenged
is-
my boundaries.
Yes.
Right away.
Yeah, and again, tell me what your body felt like that was.
I didn't feel rattled by it.
Yeah.
I just responded to it.
Yes.
And I mean, I had the confidence knowing that he would be okay with me doing that. But
Yeah.
I, you know,
Yep.
said no, or I said no with my action.
Yes.
And he moved appropriately.
Yeah.
I think he came back maybe a little
He
bit.
did.
Sort of challenged it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a double whammy.
Yeah.
It's like, you sure you got this one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's he does seem to have that. And then he stayed, didn't he? He sort of leaves and then comes back. And there were 2 occasions where he came back and spent a bit of time at that distance. Like I often think they show us, if we're not as in tune with it as your body is, like they will very often stand on that line of connection themselves, going, there it is. Like if you can't see it, I'll just stand here and show you. And I'm
Kind of
huge, so yes, you might just get it. Yeah, so there was and I know I was sort of poking at wanting you to feel into his essence, right? Because that's one of the exercises we talked about. One of the exercises that I do with groups is the initial introduction with the horses is no talking, no touching, and just hanging out with them and writing down everything that comes to you. And it doesn't have to be logical. And for me, people will pick up the depths of the horses in very illogical ways. Like, with Charlie, it could be that they get their favorite dessert come up. And he does have a thing about food. Right? So it's like it doesn't make sense to the person. They're like, oh, I had this idea about cheesecake. And then you're like, well, yeah, Charlie does have a thing about food. So you're connecting with them at all of those layers, if that makes sense. So that was, I was seeing if you were able to, whether that's something he was presenting to you, right? Because I'm just sort of facilitating options.
Right.
And I think it remained.
I think for me, I looked at the 3 horses, and it was just a matter of asking my body,
Right.
which one.
Right.
There wasn't a particular reason
Right.
or thought, but it
Yeah.
was more the resonance was with Charlie,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that's how that.
Yeah.
That came
So
up.
what does he represent to you? Like if he was a person, how would you characterize him?
Well, I think he's helping me with boundary setting.
Right.
So he's that person who stretches you that way. Standing in your power, standing your ground.
Right. Right.
And I know that's been something I've been learning about and working on for, well, since we started the course together or soon after.
Right.
So I think he represents that kind of a figure.
Is there what are your, like if you think of him as that kind of figure, do you have thoughts and emotions around, if he was a person, would you have a dislike for him or a fear, or how is he as the boundary pusher? What's your response to him?
I suppose depending on the particular situation, there could be some fear and dislike. Not always.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation that you needed, that I needed to stand in my power about, whatever the issue. But I guess looking back, it's good to know that in some cases you can simply just go,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah, not happening.
Yeah, and then sometimes the push comes again and you can say no. Some situations might require more than that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But just knowing that, having the confidence that you can do that is definitely a step in the right direction.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I always get the sense there's a slightly comedic side to him, which makes it easier, although he's teaching.
Well, when you look at how it happened today, it
Yes.
is funny.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe if I could lighten up a bit sometimes. Not take things so seriously or take
Right.
myself so seriously,
Yes.
but learn to embrace some of the humor in it. When you look at how the horses have been teaching me,
Yes.
it is funny.
It is. It is. They're
Some
they're
are just gonna
ridiculously
literally
straightforward.
come right into your face,
Yes.
butt up against you, and
Yeah.
you're going to do anything.
Yes. Yeah. How are
Yeah.
you going to respond to this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really interesting.
yeah,
I think Pine wandered up beside us after that, didn't he? He kind of wandered. He'd been waiting, and I know from the video we'll watch to see what their bigger picture was, because I got
Yeah.
quite involved with. And have a sense that he was out in the periphery, waiting for his time, right?
Okay.
Because he sort of came up beside me, and you and I were having a discussion about body sensation and regulation and engagement with people. And he just came in and was like, well, here's the next piece. Right? 'Cause-
literally, yeah. Because as you were talking to me, I was a little distracted by what was welling up. Mm-hmm. And it was as soon as he probably stood in that connection place, like where we were perfectly positioned
Yes.
to connect, all of a sudden I felt the emotions, and my eyes were activated, and I'm like, oh, I'm tearing up here. This is like, it's just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so crazy, because it had nothing to do with the umbrella of our situation and what the session was supposedly going to be about.
Yeah, right.
In the beginning,
Right.
right? And just powerful, that joy piece.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when it was that I mentioned to you prior to that, just about his eyes, the cheerfulness. There was something soft in his eyes, and when he stood there, it was like that emotion, and that it was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so spontaneous, unplanned. I mean, how could you plan that into your session?
Well, he knew. He was waiting, right?
He knew.
And yes. I mean, at some level they do, I think, but no, you and I can't orchestrate that. Yeah. So really interesting, the message around joy, right?
Yeah.
So how did that sort of well up, and you, as you say, you shared with me that you wanted to be more spontaneously joyful, and
Yeah, it's something that probably came up through my course.
right.
I don't know if I wrote it down, but it's just been in my psyche a bit. This piece of joy, wanting more joy. I think it stems back to my childhood, like going back into, and I don't know where that would come from, but that, like, it was like I was prevented. Something was holding me back from joy for a long time, and not smiling enough, and not being carefree enough.
Yeah.
And I think, I connected to that thought that I'm trying to express since I started the course. So there's something in the
Right.
course.
There's something bubbling up through
There's
you.
something that, and I can't put my finger on it right now, but yeah, it's like this. You look at your ancestry, and then you look at your lineage, and then you look at your whole life, and there's so many pieces to it. And I just had an awareness of it. Yeah, so that is an area I do want healing and growth in, because huge piece. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
to embrace joy. Mm-hmm. I feel peace and contentment, but just that freedom to embrace life and
Yeah.
have fun and just laugh more, and laugh at myself more, be less serious.
Yes. Yeah. We do seem to get.
So that would
Quite
be
serious.
the storyline that has been bubbling up and that was surfacing
Right.
at that moment. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
actually a pretty big piece. Yeah, like, I mean, very real.
Yes. Yeah.
I was
So do
always-
you, just for my clarity, so do you feel you had that as a child, or that it started being suppressed as a child?
It was suppressed.
Okay. All right.
I don't know that anyone externally was doing that.
Right.
I feel like it was just in my system somehow that I was very serious. But I don't think it was because someone made me feel
No,
that.
no,
And
no.
I would have no idea what the attachment would be. But yeah.
Yeah. Just
But
that
when
it
I
was,
think about it, I think, yeah, I didn't laugh enough. I didn't smile enough. I
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, and I remember people used to think, you know, I maybe wouldn't be confident in a group of people, so I had a straight face, so people would think, oh, is she giving a dirty look, or is she stuck
Right.
up, or you know
Right.
how we used to say about people when
Yeah.
we were in grade school. No, and it was totally not that. It would have been more an insecurity or
yes.
something
Yes.
like
Right.
that.
Right.
Rather,
Comes across as an aloofness, but
it does,
Yeah.
but really, it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, finding joy.
finding joy. It's so, what's so lovely is that piece around, I mean, may have talked to you about Pine, but he is a little monkey in his true nature. Like, he's sassy, and he, well, you saw how Charlie had to actually bite him to get him to move, right?
Right.
But he got shut down, right? He got shut down to the point where he wouldn't breathe properly when you were engaging with him. And became very serious. And so it's so lovely to me that, you know, he's healing that. Like, what I've allowed him to do in rehabbing him is let him be with the horses and watch how he behaves as a horse, not as a horse with humans, because he's like, I'm good. I'll just stay within the parameters and I won't do anything. And I actually won't even breathe, was how he'd learned how to deal with things, right? And then, of
Interesting.
course, he would eventually couldn't hold himself together and would explode. But yeah, watching him for 10 or so years now, he's sassy, he's cheeky, he's a little monkey. And so it's like allowing that to come back in his engagement with me. So when I ask him to move, he does the same thing now with me and goes, well, really? Do you really mean it? You know, so I just love that little piece has bubbled up for both of you, right? That he's like, we can align here, and they can't shed tears as far as we know. So the fact that you could both have that moment of that emotional release.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really neat to me that you also had a desire to touch, and that isn't, I've really noticed when you choose to touch them and when you don't, because I think it's significant and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just an observation, because he doesn't necessarily like to be touched on his face. So the fact that,
Oh.
yeah, that you were exploring his face, it's
Yeah.
not his first choice.
Interesting. And he didn't seem to mind
No,
it
he
at
was
all.
fine with it. Yeah, he was
No,
absolutely
I was
fine with
really admiring the musculature of
it. Yeah.
the jaw area. Just incredible. Yeah. No, and I did spend a fair bit of time there. I didn't
Yes.
leave.
Yeah, and he stayed,
Yeah.
with that too, which is lovely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So fascinating how, I have no idea.
No,
And I probably wouldn't have touched there if I knew that
exactly.
that
So
wasn't his
I
favorite
was,
spot. So
yeah,
he was,
and I was observing that, going,
did he
this
enjoy
is-
it? Or
yeah,
was he
is this
enduring it?
okay, or do I need to intervene? And it's like, no, it's fine. Your touch
Interesting.
was exploratory. It wasn't, he would have had a lot of restrictions around his head at different times during training and stuff. So for him to have a relatively unknown person come in and do that,
Yeah,
is
because
super
it
healing.
wasn't a massage, but There
No.
was a little bit of pressure because I was feeling the tissue. Yeah,
That's neat. That's
Yeah.
neat that you were doing that. Yeah.
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 I was engaging with that sense of, the power.
Yes. Power of the physicality. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. They're huge. So.
totally. Wow. I don't know, as you uncover the session, there's so many layers
Yeah.
because you know them
Yes. Yeah.
and who they are.
And how the yes, they come in at certain levels to parallel and match. It's the resonance, isn't it? Isn't it back to the sweet spot in some way,
It is.
right? It's like he, they all did their engagement with you, and as I say, it'll be fun to watch because there was engagement, and they were quite short engagements, and he's just like, and now it's my turn,
Yeah.
and the others all let him do his thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I seem to remember I looked out to the bigger picture, and I think at that point, the other three were again on that next layer out, grazing. It's like, yep, give them their space, hold space, but
Right.
give them their space so that they can have this
Interesting.
time. Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, they're just all left.
Imagine if we as people were so wise. Right?
Right. Well, our bodies are. Our bodies are that wise if we follow our bodies, I think.
And that's the thing, bringing us into our bodies so we can hear.
Yeah, so that we're actually partnering with them. Yeah. The more and more we hear about receiving as you're learning or being reminded about fascial system and lymph system and the fat around us, how that's our intake, and how at another level that goes directly to the gut, and then the gut's sending messages up to the heart and the brain. That they have miles of gut, like their whole body is designed around having guts in order to keep them warm and fed and being able to move, right? So their
Right.
whole system, they have a massive heart field as well, but this idea that we're just taking in energy, we're taking in information all the time, and that our body knows how to respond to it, right?
Yes.
And that the intuition part, then that you're, building more refinement through this course is just validating. And I just think it's hysterical that the horses every time are like, yeah, you got this. You're on it. Keep trusting the process because you've got it.
Yep.
Is just so, yeah, is so lovely.
That's brilliant, really. Really.
Yeah, it's sort of,
Yeah.
and as you were saying, the layering of the relational field, that
Yeah.
supportive, yeah, that the learning, perhaps. I mean, and what I love watching is, yes, there's this engagement here with you and I, and each engagement you have with the horses is that very specific engagement, and then there's the next layer out, and then there's the next layer out, and it's all part of the orchestration of every moment that they're showing us, right? It's like, this is how life works. Do you remember what happened after Pine? Did Liberty come back?
Did she come back? See, now I can't remember.
No.
And I'm forgetting some of my words from the Cranio, but this was a busy session.
Yes.
The previous session we had some of the really deep, still places. And this session was more sort of like a lot of tissue work, very busy.
Yes.
It's like a workout, kind of like we're going to talk about, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this.
Yes.
And we weren't really in an engagement for a really long time, like in the previous session where we had some really deep stillness. So that was interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's lovely. Another way of looking at it too. for me is sometimes, as you say, if we're doing body work, we're moving to 6 different places and the body wants adjusting
Yeah.
and
This
sometimes
tissue is releasing, and then
Yes.
this is going on, and this is going on, and
yeah. And
or,
sometimes we just stay at the feet,
yeah,
right, for the whole session because and I think, yeah, that's nice for me because there are times where today I was going, what is this thread? Where are we going with this, right? And sort of staying on track, but also going, you're right, it was constantly moving.
yeah. We had Liberty, and then we had Charlie, and then we had Pine, and
Yeah, I'm trying to think if Libs came in. She didn't really, did she? She was sort of on the periphery always.
yeah, yeah. There wasn't any direct
Yeah,
contact with her.
yeah. There was a point where they did an interesting thing with me where I'm trying to think who you were with. Actually, it was Liberty. And I was close to the fence, and Libby came past me, and I was like, what do I do here? Is she going to push Liberty away? And she didn't, but she kind of was banging up against me, and I had to do the whole, not now. And then Charlie did the same thing. Well, I'm coming through. Maybe you could be the fence post for me. And both times I was sort of going, are they going to push Liberty away? And they didn't. Yeah, they didn't, which is always fascinating too to me that I have to trust that process of it's all happening, and you don't need to, you don't need to get into micromanage or warn Julie. It's
Right.
It's all part of a process, and then, yeah, I think that was. I don't remember if there was anything. If there was a significance to Liberty's sort of second time in, or whether it was just more physicality.
Yeah, I can't connect to it right
We'll
now.
have to look at the video and see.
Look at the video. That'll
Yeah.
be the benefit there.
And then we wanted to explore, and sort of near the end, it was like they were leaving, which sort of came to the conclusion of the session, and you wanted to explore movement, right?
Right. So we moved out of the ring
Yeah.
and into the area right where we are here, just about. Yeah, and it was kind of like it was done at that point.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was clear that they were disengaging.
Yeah.
And that we could have, it's always that continuum thing, isn't it? That we could have followed them, right? And continued into some other completely different process,
Right.
because they went off doing their own thing. And just being in nature with them, right?
Yeah.
Grazing with them, whatever, and being in that process of being in their united field, like they were all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing work. It just never fails, right? It's very present. Moment. Work.
Yeah.
And that's the most powerful place to be, is what we have right now.
Yes, being in this moment, and yet, as you say, there are so many layers that then percolate through the system, don't they? That are in the present moment. We don't really know what's happening, or we might want to feel like, oh well, you had a clearing with Pine, and it's like, you had an experience with Pine. How will it change your engagement with Joy? We don't know. It's not anything that we can orchestrate or plan, or, from now on, Joy's going to be a thing and I'm going to practice it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, it'll be just lovely to go, oh, look at that. Because that's really how it works, isn't it? It's like you have an engagement that brings it up to awareness, and then you're like, oh, I just did that goofy thing. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, well, let me practice 6 times in the next 2 weeks to have joyful moments,
Right.
which
doesn't work. You
doesn't work.
You can't pre-plan them.
No, no,
That
no,
wouldn't be spontaneous
no,
joy.
no, it wouldn't. So, yeah. So can you sort of look back just in this moment and see again, just in a few words or feelings, what they gave you. I mean, it's going to change. It'll, you know, we know it changes over the weeks, but sort of from this place, what does it feel right now?
Yeah.
Just having had the engagement with them.
Yeah, comfort. Just
Right.
feeling comfortable in my life where it is right now.
Nice.
And definitely ease
Yeah.
and consistency.
Mm.
Yeah, because I felt really solid throughout. Like I felt very comfortable around them the whole time. And my body didn't have these big shifts of highs and lows. It was really consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really nice actually.
Yeah.
And then there was enough resourcing there to handle the shifts in the session.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, the emotional moment, the boundary setting, you know,
Yeah.
the changes. So there were a
Yes.
lot of actual changes,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I felt like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
No
that
problem.
you can handle it. Yeah. Yeah. Agility.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. How it's so lovely to hear you say like comfort, ease, and consistency. Like if those were things that you had listed even 6 weeks ago,
Yeah.
you'd be like, well, that's a stretch.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right?
So a lot has happened
Yes.
in that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for
Mm-hmm.
what they brought out today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Totally amazing work.
Yeah. Yeah.
The wisdom that's really there.
Yes. Sort of below the surface of of everydayness. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's
Yeah, and that our body is guiding us
mm-hmm.
when we're tuned in
Mm-hmm.
to listening to it and feeling how it feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's so accurate, isn't it? Yeah.
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 How does it feel? Does it like how this feels? Does it not?
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. 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 Really clear. No, that's great. That's really lovely to hear that because you couldn't have I couldn't have orchestrated that, and wouldn't it, we both said we don't have a clue what they're going to do, but that validation is really deep and has changed in a relatively short period of time
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So thank you. This is great.
welcome.
And here we sit in paradise.
Yes. Yeah,
in
I
the
know.
magical, enchanted forest.
Yeah, it's that whole part of the relational field as well, right? We're just so lucky to be in this space with the trees.
Stunning nature.
Yeah.
The freshness of the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
just
almost
being
like if you quieted down, you could feel the earth breathing.
You're right, it is one of those places to be
Yeah.
able to do that.
Kind of like our soul breath, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Breath of life.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes on regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Yep.
cool.
That's
Awesome. Well, I think that's probably lots for the moment.
it. Probably.
Probably. Are we quitting, Ken?